Hello and welcome to Read Read. Today I'm making a video based off a user or viewer comment request. Thank you at Fragwall. They asked if I could make a video talking about how I annotate books because they were saying that they wanted to get into annotating books but they haven't or they don't know how. And if you've seen my video reviews, you'll probably know, and the thumbnail of this video I guess in a very clickbait fashion, you'll know that I do often have like tags and post-its sticking out of my books. But what I think could be cool, and the reason that I wanted to talk about it, is that I've actually worked out a pretty minimalistic approach to marginalia that if you're someone who has some like trepidation about writing in books, I think you might like the way in which I approach it, because there are some things where I don't highlight anything, I don't write really text in the books, I don't underline at all. I have kind of figured out a different system for doing that, and yeah, what I thought I would do is I have 4 different stages of the evolution of my annotations and marginalia. And we'll start with like early ones, and then we'll go through, talk about why I moved away from it. And then in the end, I've got a pile of maybe 10 books that are annotated in the way that I feel like I got the most out of it while not disturbing the flow of it, still wanting to be a fun first-time virginal read. But what I'll do actually, just to make the video convenient, is I'll start by talking about, I'll show you a prime example of the book, and then I'll jump back to the start and talk about the other examples, just so that, I mean, if you want, you can just watch like the first couple of minutes of the video and then leave. But yeah, this is The Woman in the Dunes. This has got pretty much all of the annotations in the way that I would go about doing it, and I did make a video on this, so again I'm not going to talk about it, but the way in which I approach annotating a book is that there is usually 3 approaches. It is based around using these tags, these little post-it notes, but what I realized is that I don't have it color-coded at all, because I realized actually I used to have it color-coded, but I realized around sort of Infinite Jest, when I was really using quite a lot, that it was hard to maintain a color coding pattern. So what I've actually got is a position system. So pretty much, if there is a post on top, it is an indication that you can flick to that page and you will find an extract or a line from the book that I really liked, and it makes sense out of context of the book. And so I'm going to find, so just skipping to page 100 of The Woman in the Dunes, I'm going to try and read examples that don't spoil any of these books, but sorry if I accidentally say something. Here is a line. Perhaps it would be better to say that rather than losing their passion, they had frozen it by over-idealizing it. And it's talking about a relationship or a marriage that deteriorated. And what I realized was that was just a line that stood out to me, and it made sense out of the context of the book. I didn't need to kind of explain or give any backdrop of the characters or anything, and trying to find another one. This is an example I really loved that I did read in the video, but he sank into an unbearable self-aversion with the thought that among the glum and grey, people other than he had colours other than grey: red, blue, green. And yeah, that's just a sentence or a sentiment, a prose style that I really like, and I wanted to highlight it. So what I will do is I will get, and I'm going to see how the focus goes with this, but I will not underline it. I will take the section that I really like, and I've got these 2 little brackets that go around it. I'm going to get close and try to adjust the focus, but whee. Yeah, so I've got these little brackets, so that's the end of it, and up there's the start of it, and it's just the tiniest little marginalia that I can instantly see, and I can just go back and do it. We're going back into focus mode. Awesome, I hope that worked. Yeah, so there's just a tiny little marginalia that I will see when I'm flicking through to go and put it in, and it's just the absolute minimal, because I really, really find underlining to be quite barbaric, I'm sorry, and also highlighting as well. So for me, this is just the most minimal way. It's like putting a bracket around it, but just a nice little aesthetic tick, kind of top closed bracket and a bottom closed bracket around the area of focus. And it doesn't always have to be a sentence. Sometimes I've put those ticks around like giant brackets and giant passages, and sometimes there's even ticks within ticks, so you do need to pay attention. So not you, I need to pay attention to make sure that there are sort of sub brackets. But yeah, that's what the lines on top are. If you see a line that is on top but it is facing out onto the side of the book, then what that is a entire section that I really liked and that I want to go back and reread. So this could be just a chapter. All of chapter 20 has got this posted pointing this way, and it's at the very, very top, so I know that it's a section that I want to go back and reread. And that's cool, just because sometimes I'll find that I will start, and I'm thinking there might be some early examples of books where this happened, but I would start with a tick up the top, and then I would try to find the page where I wanted to untick it, and I was just like, no, this is ridiculous. I flicked like 3 pages. I can't have a note. I can't underline 3 whole pages. And so what I realized is I just really liked the whole section, and so I put in notes that are still up the top, so it's kind of out of the way, but it just lets me know that if I flick to this page, there is a section or an extract or a scene even that I just want to go back and completely reread. These on the side, this was first done in a book that will show up later, Infinite Jest, and it is pretty much clues. So they are in-world clues or in-world themes that I want to take note of that only makes sense in the context of the world. And so for anyone who's watched my Woman in the Dunes video, you might remember that there is a lot of anthropomorphization in this, a lot of describing things, people, kind of nature in an insect-like manner, and a lot of these annotations are going to that. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense to say something like, to just say out of context, his vocal cords were shredded like strands of dried squid, but it was just it was one example of a recurring theme that I noticed in the book, and that's what these side clues are. They're just standout, pop-out moments that really seemed important to me and was something that I wanted to remember, but it's not like I would ever say that at a dinner table or in a conversation without the person knowing the context of the book. So yeah, I would say that this The Woman in the Dunes is a really good example of the kind of most ideal way in which I want to annotate a book, because again, I have post-it notes ready to go. I'm trying to find, I've got a later example. Actually, I'll quickly show you this. I actually take the sticky notes and I just stick them to the front page. So there's a bunch of them here. So I don't need to carry around a whole thing. They're just already in the book. And I almost always am carrying a pen on me. So yeah, I'll just write in there. And yeah, but considering that, I hope that was valuable and you can use that. But if you want to stay around, if you want to see a fun sort of journey on the way, and sometimes you will see that my marginalia or annotations are different, stick around, because I'm going to talk about now the evolutionary stages. And so starting off, we've got 2 philosophy books, and I'm already just beaming looking at these. We've got the essays of Michel de Montaigne, and we've got Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra. So this was pre me becoming a big reader. Pretty much the reason I owned and read these books was because, and this is going to sound kind of weird, maybe kind of lame, but the way that I got into knowledge and got into learning was learning about philosophy, usually through podcasts like Philosophize This or some of the crash course videos online. And so what happened was I would read the book, or I would listen to the podcast, I would learn about them, and I would be like, man, that's really, really cool. Like, I should totally buy the book. And so I would buy Thus Spoke Zarathustra or Montaigne's essays, and of course, I wasn't a reader, so they would just be sitting there and I would be accumulating a nice little stockpile of books. But these were some of the books that, for whatever reason, I actually was compelled to go on and read. And this is incredible, because this was back when I was into highlighting. And so looking back at this, I kind of cringe, but also it's not too bad, because it is kind of fun to go back and look. And I think there was a color coding system wherein pretty much if it was a yellow highlight, then it was just the equivalent of like my little ticks, where it's just an extract or something that works and can be said out of context. So, for example, from Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you become new if you had not first become ashes?" Just a kind of aphorism or proverb. But the orange highlighter was kind of nice prose writing or kind of beautiful language, as far as I thought back then. And so there are emotions that seek to kill the solitary. If they do not succeed, well, they must die themselves. But are you capable of being a murderer? And oh my god, it's a little bit edgy and to go back and look at, but I guess that's just Nietzsche in general. But the reason I wanted to mention these books, and I'm kind of skimming through to try and find it, is that there is a mystery third color. I did use a blue highlighter on occasion when I didn't know the meaning of a word. And so I thought, and I even thought at the time, that this would be the most cringe thing to go back and look at, but occasionally you'll just see plops of little blue lines that highlight words I don't know. So I didn't know what the word sojourn meant. I didn't know what wantonness meant. I didn't know what expedient meant. I didn't know what azure meant, nor consecrating, which is kind of funny. Like, I thought I would hate to go back and look and be like, oh, why did I? And even to this day, I will not highlight or write words that I don't know. I'll just get out a dictionary app or get a real dictionary and kind of like put a post-it note in that. But yeah, I'm finding it actually kind of fun to go back and look and see words and just think, oh yeah, I had a period of my life where I was reading and thinking I was engaging with books where I didn't know what the word precept meant. So yeah, but because of that and because of these, goodbye, Nietzsche, because of those experiences, I've ended up going against highlighting, and yeah, it kind of just looks a bit garish, I guess, to me. But yeah, just the same idea. I was using the same patterns or the same color coding in Montaigne's essays. Later on, talking about the time in which this was after I'd gotten back into reading, and this was actually, well, the time I started this channel, because I'm going to talk about Kafka on the Shore and the fact that the reason why I don't write text in the books. So usually, if I am reading a book and my thoughts on the book are quantifiable enough that I need to write it down in words, I just grab a commonplace book, a journal that I'm almost always carrying, and I just write it in there, because as my friend Desi said excellently, there's not a lot of space in books because it's almost like the pages are full with text already. And so the idea of trying to just squeeze in and crampedly write just doesn't appeal to me. And so yeah, if I really want to write about a book, then I will just write about it in a journal. But here's an example where there's a section, there's quick spoilers, maybe spoilers for Kafka on the Shore. There is a stone that is sort of a MacGuffin, and Murakami decided to describe it as something the size of an LP record, which ties into a different storyline, and I just wrote, weirdly on the nose. And then later on the same page, when he again described it as the size of an LP, I wrote, like, Murakami is trying to make it very obvious. Red herring ? And yeah, going on, there are also some examples from me writing text in Dune, because this was actually a reread, and I was talking about I was just like kind of comparing it to the first time I'd read it, and I was also comparing it to the film that had come out. But yeah, little cramped writings just on the bottom don't appeal to me much anymore, and I index all of my journals anyway, so it's kind of like I can go back and find any notes if I need to. Feels like a bit of a stretch to assume. I like seeing those little notes, but I don't really have any compulsion to write text in books anymore. Sometimes, for whatever reason, I just don't feel compelled to write in a book, and I don't know why. It could be something as little as like, I have the book on me, I have some post-it notes, but when I start reading, I don't have a pen on me, or it could just be like a feeling thing. I don't know why, but here are some examples of books that I took notes in, but the notes were exclusively kind of tags on the side or in-world clues. So there's Kappa by Akutagawa, which was a recent video. There's Roland Barthes' Camera Lucida. I don't know why. Like, it's kind of to the point where it's sort of absurd that I didn't just write in it, because I could have probably saved some post-it notes. But yeah, there was something weird about, like, I think this might have been an example where I just didn't have a pen on me or something. And, it's quite a short book, so I think I read it rather quickly, but I don't really know why. But I didn't write in Bernhard's The Loser. I just kind of used tags, and there are sections, like there are sentences that I tagged that were, like half a page long, and really it would have made sense, and they probably make sense out of context. But yeah, don't know why, but sometimes if I don't have a pen on me, if all I have are the post-it notes, then I will just do the in-world clues, and when I go back and look at it, then that will make sense, sort of, like why I did it. And if I really need to, if I ever want it to sort of line up, I will just change it and I'll move it around and I will kind of write in it. But yeah, it's not happened yet. I've not really had any desire to do it. And yeah, sometimes when I'm reading poetry collections as well, as a bit of a rule, I don't write or kind of do the little tags or extracts outside, like, of just lines in a poem, because poems are usually short enough that I want to just take the whole thing. And so with Rilke, poetry of Rilke, all of these, they've got this set up so that it's a poem a page, or sometimes it will go on to be more, but you'll never have part of a poem on one page and another poem on another one. So yeah, it probably would have been more accurate considering the rest of my system for all of these to be on the side. But yeah, these little side sections are just like, this is the start of the Duino elegies for this side one, and then some more, I think some sonnets to Orpheus perhaps. But yeah, the sonnets to Orpheus, but all on top, these are all just poems that I really enjoyed, and I didn't really write in it at all. Similarly, with the selected poetry of Emily Dickinson, however, because this collection has lots of poems on a couple of pages, this is just a tag on the side, sort of like the in-world clue tag, but really it's just poem number 33 I wanted to go back and look at. So there are exceptions, but I want to make it so that the exceptions always make sense as soon as I open up the book and see, hopefully even after it's been a while since I read the book. But yeah, now we're getting into the last stretch. Here's just a bunch of books that I feel like I marginaliated and took notes of in a way that I felt satisfied with. So White Teeth, mostly extracts on the top, but we've got some on the side. Not really a whole lot of in-world clues, but that's all right. Similarly with the notebooks of Malte Lorenz Brugger, mostly extracts on top, but I do have a little tag on the side just because there are notes at the end that I wanted to quickly jump back to. We've got William Gaddis's The Recognitions, which lots of tags on the top, some extracts on the side, but I also got this out because regarding translations, I will usually pencil in, if I write any text in a book, it will usually be me penciling in translations. And this happens a lot in the works of Nabokov. You'll see me just writing text up top, and there's just like a little one, and then I'll write one in the main text where the foreign language text shows up. Sometimes it's so substantive that I actually just get a post-it note and I stick it in, because I'm not, like, that's too much to write. That was an entire interaction or exchange that happened in French, and I was like, I'm not going to write this whole thing in there, so just get a quick post-it note and throw that in. And following on with Gaddis, we've got JR, similar thing, got lines on top, but this one had a lot more in-world clues. I was trying to keep track and take note of people and characters, who was talking at a time when characters were first introduced. So JR, kind of a more, not fair to say complex, but it was jumping around a little bit, and so yeah, I felt like I needed to have some in-world clue tags just to help keep track of things. The big one, the thumbnail, Infinite Jest, this is the one where I really needed clues to keep track of everything, but a lot of extracts on top. This is almost not color coded, but there are some things where the purple tags are actually the few sections that are written in the first person, and maybe in like a year I'll forget that, but yeah, for now most of these are not color coded. There's no rhyme or reason for it. It's just it's just clues on the side. And then here are some examples of just using some combination of all of them: white noise, Siddhartha, and the color purple. Usually extracts on top, but mostly clues on the side. I really like that. For whatever reason, I felt an aesthetic urge to have like pink on top and this sort of brown, it's not really, it's kind of like blue-gray on the side, and it's just a really nice color palette for this cover design in this book. But yeah, that's thank you for indulging me in just talking about the way I annotate books. I hope that helped out, talking, and maybe provided some options for you if you want to get into annotating books but you don't really like doing big underlines, or you don't know what you would write if you write text. If you wanted to use the techniques that I use, just do little tiny brackets for extracts that you like, put in a tag if you see something that feels like a clue that you want to remember, and or just put a tag up the top if there's an entire section or chapter that you want to go back and reread. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks again for @FragWall for the comment asking for this video.